got down on my knees and I accepted that I had a problem.
Earl Campbell was once the definition of unstoppable, but today, the NFL Hall of Famer is a shadow of that legend. He's gone from failed business ventures to addiction struggles, and now the toll football is taking on his body.
My Bowflex machine and working out, I find that my pain gets a little better, but I can't sit here and lie to you and say that I don't still have pain in my back, because I do.
One question everyone's asking is, how did it all go wrong for Campbell? I'm here to unpack it all for you, because this is one sad story. When heroes fall. In the annals of American football history, few names evoke the raw power and unstoppable force quite like Earl Campbell. Known as the Tyler Rose, this legendary running back carved his path through defenders with the ferocity of a man possessed, leaving a trail of broken tackles and shattered records in his wake. But behind the glory, behind the Heisman Trophy and the Pro Football Hall of Fame induction, lurked a darkness that would eventually consume the very man who had once seemed invincible. Campbell's troubles began to surface during what should have been the twilight of a glorious career. In 1983, after years of carrying the Houston Oilers on his powerful shoulders, Earl Campbell experienced a significant controversy when he demanded a trade from the Houston Oilers after being pulled from a game against the Cincinnati Bengals, frustrated with the team's performance and personal criticisms. The November 6, 1983 game against Cincinnati became a watershed moment, not just for Campbell's career, but for his relationship with the organization that had drafted him first overall in 1978. The Oilers were demolished 55-14, and Campbell, feeling the weight of both the team's failures and what he perceived as unfair criticism, reached his breaking point. "I'm tired of hearing every week how I'm too dumb, washed up, too dumb to read holes, can't block, can't catch the football," he stated, his frustration boiling over into public view. This outburst reflected deeper issues brewing beneath the surface. The Oilers finished the 1983 season with a 2-14 record, tying for the worst in the league. For a man who had led the NFL in rushing for 3 consecutive years from 1978 to 1980, watching his team struggle while facing criticism about his own abilities was a bitter pill to swallow. The trade demand wasn't just about football, it was about respect, dignity, and the recognition of what he had given to the franchise. Campbell was eventually traded to the New Orleans Saints on October 9, 1984, reuniting him with his former coach Bum Phillips. But by then, the bloom was definitely off the Tyler Rose, and what should have been a triumphant reunion became a painful reminder of what time and where had stolen from one of the game's greatest warriors. His transition to life after the game wasn't that great either. Professional athletes often struggle with the transition from sports to business, but Campbell's post-football entrepreneurial journey would prove particularly tumultuous. Earl Campbell founded Earl Campbell Meat Products in 1990, turning his passion for making sausage into what initially appeared to be a successful business venture. The company produced a line of smoked sausages and barbecue sauces that gained popularity throughout Texas and beyond. However, success in the meat business would prove elusive. In 1999, Campbell opened a restaurant to showcase his products and expand his business, but the venture was fraught with challenges from the start. Earl Campbell's Lone Star BBQ was located on 6th Street in Austin, a location better suited for nightlife than family dining. The restaurant struggled with high overhead costs and insufficient dinner revenue, leading to its closure in February 2001 after failing to pay rent. The restaurant's failure was just the beginning of Campbell's business woes. In 2001, Campbell's Austin-based food company, founded in 1990, and his restaurant faced bankruptcy. This financial setback was detailed in a Texas Monthly article from September 2001, which noted that a sausage manufacturer in Flatonia took on his debts, forming a new partnership called Earl Campbell Meat Products. "I don't know that business," Campbell admitted candidly in the Texas Monthly interview. "This was the first time in my life I ran up against a wall, that I ran up on something I just couldn't do." For a man who had built his reputation on never being stopped, on always finding a way through the defense, this admission represented a profound moment of vulnerability and human frailty. Perhaps no single incident in Campbell's post-football life generated more controversy than his comments about quarterbacks and race in 2019. In an interview with Kirk Bowles of the Austin American-Statesman, Campbell made statements that would spark widespread criticism and debate about race in sports. "Until the University of Texas realizes you have to have a black quarterback, and nothing against Ehlinger, you gotta have a talented black quarterback," Campbell told the newspaper, referring to then-current quarterback Sam Ehlinger. "All these schools that are winning, even in the pros, have black quarterbacks. When guys are not open, something can still happen." The reaction was swift and severe. An article on the Big Lead called his statement the textbook definition of racism and factually inaccurate, citing examples like Trevor Lawrence and Tom Brady as successful white quarterbacks. Social media posts, such as those by Clay Travis, further highlighted the controversy, noting the lack of extensive media coverage due to what he characterized as narrative preferences. The comments were particularly damaging because they came from a beloved figure in Texas sports history. While Campbell was dealing with professional controversies and business failures, his body was paying an increasingly steep price for his years of punishing football. Earl Campbell's physical decline became increasingly apparent as he aged, with his aggressive playing style leaving lasting damage that would affect him for the rest of his life. In 2009, Campbell was diagnosed with spinal stenosis, a condition characterized by the narrowing of the spinal canal, which can cause severe pain, numbness, and weakness. This diagnosis would set in motion a chain of events that would lead to perhaps the darkest chapter of Campbell's post-football life. The man who had once been described as a one-man demolition team now found himself struggling with basic mobility. Campbell often uses a cane, walker, or wheelchair for mobility, a stark contrast to the powerful runner who had once terrorized NFL defenses. The physical decline was not just about football injuries, it was about the cumulative effect of thousands of violent collisions, each one extracting a price that wouldn't be fully paid until decades later. These physical struggles would lead to an even more devastating battle, one against addiction that would nearly cost him everything he held dear. The stage was set for a downward spiral that would test not just Campbell's physical resilience, but his very will to survive. Addiction and rock bottom. The transformation from NFL superhero to broken man struggling with addiction represents perhaps the most heartbreaking chapter in Earl Campbell's story. The same body that had carried him to football immortality became a prison of constant pain, leading him down a path that would nearly destroy everything he had built: his relationships, his reputation, and ultimately, his will to live. Campbell's addiction stemmed from managing chronic pain caused by spinal stenosis, a condition that was likely exacerbated by the physical toll of his football career. The diagnosis came in 2009, but the pain had been building for years, a crescendo of agony that traced its origins back to every bone-crushing tackle, every collision with a linebacker, every time he had lowered his head and powered through the defense. Campbell underwent multiple back surgeries, with a notable revision laminectomy and spinal fusion in July 2008, aimed at repairing damage from previous procedures. Dr. Stan Jones removed 8 screws and 2 rods in a surgery 4 weeks prior to the report, as the hardware that was supposed to help his spine had become loose and was pressing against nerves. The irony was bitter. The very strength that had made Campbell legendary, his willingness to absorb punishment and keep running, had condemned him to a life of chronic pain. To alleviate the pain, his doctors prescribed high-potency pain medications, including Vicodin and OxyContin. What started as legitimate medical treatment would soon spiral into something far more sinister. Campbell's use of prescription painkillers escalated beyond medical prescription. He began mixing these powerful medications with alcohol, specifically Budweiser, creating a dangerous cocktail that would lead to his rapid deterioration. Reports indicate he was consuming up to 10 OxyContin pills daily, each washed down with beer, and also used hydrocodone. "I had no idea that the greatest drug pushers in the world are our doctors," Campbell would later reflect, a statement that highlighted both his naivety about prescription drug addiction and his sense of betrayal by the medical establishment he had trusted. The progression was insidious. What began as taking an extra pill or two when the pain was particularly bad gradually escalated into a full-blown addiction that consumed his daily existence. The euphoric feeling of mixing alcohol with the prescribed medication created a cycle that became increasingly difficult to break. Campbell began slurring his speech, pushing his family away, struggling to remember things, and allowing important business opportunities to slip away.
I think I wouldn't want to say it was a 12-pack of Budweiser every day, but I'd say it was 4 or 5 beers every day. And whenever I felt like pain, I'd take 2 or 3 pain pills or something like that.
The admission reveals the careful way addicts often minimize their consumption, even to themselves. What Campbell described as 4 or 5 beers and 2 or 3 pain pills was likely a conservative estimate of his actual consumption during the darkest days of his addiction. The turning point came in November 2009, when Campbell's sons, Tyler and Christian, staged an intervention that would literally save his life. The 2 young men sat their father down and told him they were worried for his life and would be admitting him to a rehabilitation facility.
It was like, "Hey Dad, look here, we gotta talk to you." Christian said, Tyler said, "Christian, you tell him." Christian said, "No, Tyler, go ahead." Christian, go and tell him. I said, "Yeah, what you want? What you talking about? I mean, what's going on with you?"
Campbell's initial reaction revealed just how disconnected he had become from reality. He thought his sons were going to tell him about getting married or having children, normal life events that a father might expect. The reality was far more serious.
Christian says, "Dad, we gotta talk to you about something, drinking and taking those pills, and you know that's not right." I say, hey man, listen, the doctor, he told me to take them pills. He said, but Dad, you know what you're doing. That's not the way to do it.
The conversation continued with Tyler making the stakes crystal clear.
So no, Dad, you're gonna go because we gotta get this stopped because this is not what we want. And you're gonna mess right around and be like Michael Jackson, gonna be dead.
The reference to Michael Jackson, who had died just months earlier from prescription drug overdose, was particularly powerful. Campbell's sons weren't just concerned about their father's health, they were terrified he was going to die. The drive to the barbershop after his son's intervention became a moment of profound self-reflection for Campbell.
So when I was driving to the barbershop, man, I felt that small. I felt like I had failed at anything I had ever done because my children knew. I didn't care about nothing, but my children knew what was going on with me.
This moment of reckoning, seeing himself through his children's eyes, shattered the denial that had allowed his addiction to flourish.
When I looked at myself in the mirror going to the barbershop in the rearview mirror, I said, man, I can't believe I did that. I don't stand for nothing. I'm a failure. I've messed up.
Campbell was admitted to a rehabilitation facility in Austin in November 2009, initially planned for 28 days, but extended to 44 days, reflecting the intensity of his recovery process. The transition from NFL legend to rehab patient was jarring and humbling.
I got to the rehab center in South Austin, and the lady is talking to me, and I was like, hell, you gonna take my telephone? I got to have a telephone. I got to run the business. You're not only gonna have no telephone, you're not gonna have your mouthwash. I say, hey man, what the hell do you think this is? Tyler says, Dad, you should be shaming yourself acting like that.
The moment of breakthrough came during group therapy, where Campbell had a pivotal realization. During group therapy, he recognized similarities with a heroin addict, leading him to accept his problem and commit to sobriety. This recognition that addiction was addiction, regardless of the substance or the person's background, was crucial to his recovery.
One night after going to these little sessions about my group, which was like 10 or 15 people, I was in that meeting and I heard them talking, and I was participating in there, and that's when I figured I got a problem. And I went back to my room and I asked God to forgive me, to take that Budweiser and that hydrocodone away from me.
By the end of 2009, Campbell had broken his addiction, but recovery would prove to be a lifelong journey. Campbell has since become an advocate against substance abuse, speaking at events like the 16th annual Rise Recovery Campaign Breakfast in 2016 to fundraise for youth overcoming drug and alcohol addictions. His approach to pain management had to change completely.
My Bowflex machine and working out, I find that my pain gets a little better, but I can't sit here and lie to you and say that I don't still have pain in my back, because I do.
Campbell advocates for alternative pain management strategies like using a Bowflex machine, non-narcotic medications, meditation, and prayer, acknowledging the persistent pain, but advocating for safer approaches. By 2023, Campbell celebrated 15 years of sobriety, marking October 11th, 2023, as a significant milestone. In a Facebook post, he encouraged others battling addiction, stating, "I know there are many on the same journey that battle or have battled addiction problems. Keep fighting one day at a time. Keep us going, Lord. Peace and love, EC." The journey from the depths of addiction to 15 years of sobriety represents one of the most remarkable comebacks in sports history, not on the field, but in life itself. Campbell's willingness to share his story publicly, to become vulnerable about his struggles, transformed his personal tragedy into a beacon of hope for others facing similar battles. His battle with addiction, while devastating, ultimately led to a different kind of victory, one measured not in rushing yards or touchdowns, but in days sober, lives touched, and the courage to keep fighting when the game seems lost. Rising from the ashes. After hitting rock bottom and clawing his way back from the depths of addiction, Campbell would transform his personal tragedy into a powerful force for good, proving that sometimes our greatest victories come not from what we achieve at our peak, but from how we rise after we fall. While Campbell's early entrepreneurial ventures had ended in bankruptcy and failure, his resilience in business would mirror his recovery from addiction. After the 2001 bankruptcy, a partnership with a Flatonia sausage manufacturer enabled Earl Campbell Meat Products, Inc. to restructure and continue operations. What could have been the final chapter of his business story instead became a new beginning. By 2025, Earl Campbell Meat Products remains a leading brand in the sausage market, with products widely available and a strong reputation for quality. The company's signature product, Earl Campbell's Hot Links, is gluten-free, contains no MSG, and is made with a blend of chicken, pork, and beef. The business has grown significantly, becoming one of the top-selling hot link brands in the United States, available in major retailers such as H-E-B, Walmart, Piggly Wiggly, and Amazon. Campbell's active involvement in marketing, leveraging his NFL fame, has been a key factor in the company's success. The company's longevity, over 35 years, demonstrates its ability to adapt and thrive despite early setbacks. The lessons learned from his earlier business failures, the restaurant that closed, the bankruptcy that nearly destroyed everything, became the foundation for a more sustainable and successful enterprise. In a surprising turn that demonstrated his continued entrepreneurial spirit, Campbell launched Top-Notch Window Cleaner and Pressure Washer in March 2025, a new business venture focused on window cleaning and pressure washing services. A promotional video on Facebook highlighted Campbell's involvement, likening his approach to cleaning to his aggressive football style. While its recent launch means there isn't sufficient data to assess its success, it reflects Campbell's ongoing entrepreneurial spirit and willingness to diversify his business portfolio. As of July 2025, Earl Campbell's net worth is estimated at approximately $25 million, according to multiple sources. This wealth is derived from several sources: his NFL career earnings, the ongoing success of Earl Campbell Meat Products, endorsement deals, and his charitable and public engagements. Campbell has participated in endorsement deals such as commercials for Love Chrysler Dodge Jeep, which add to his income stream. His involvement in the Earl Campbell Foundation and public appearances, such as autograph signings, likely provide additional revenue streams. Despite the physical toll of his football career, including arthritis, foot drop, and spinal stenosis, Campbell remains active in business and community activities. His estimated net worth suggests a comfortable financial position, supported by his entrepreneurial resilience and diversified income sources. Perhaps Campbell's most important work in his later years has been his transformation into an advocate for addiction recovery and mental health awareness. His advocacy extends to mentoring young people, emphasizing alternative pain management strategies, sharing his hard-won wisdom with those facing similar struggles. Campbell has been actively involved with organizations like Rize Recovery, speaking at their annual campaign breakfasts, such as the 16th annual event in 2016 at the Omni Hotel in San Antonio, to fundraise for youth overcoming drug and alcohol addictions. His message is powerful because it comes from someone who has lived through the darkness and emerged on the other side.
I got down on my knees and I accepted that I had a problem.
Campbell's public sharing of his journey began notably in 2013, and his willingness to be vulnerable about his struggles has transformed his personal tragedy into a beacon of hope for others.
I go to AA meetings, I participate, I talk about it publicly, and I'm not ashamed of it. And I try to let people know.
Campbell's role as an advocate expanded when his family faced another health challenge. Tyler Campbell, Earl's son, was diagnosed with relapsing multiple sclerosis at age 21 while he was a college football player. The diagnosis meant that Tyler could no longer pursue his dream of following his father's footsteps to the NFL, but it also created an opportunity for the family to come together and support a new cause.
Well, that's pretty obviously I was desperate about what happened to Tyler, and I didn't even understand what MS was, and my wife had him up in San Diego with some doctors where he was in college.
Earl and Tyler worked together to raise awareness for MS, broadening Campbell's impact on health issues beyond addiction recovery.
That made us even more because Tyler and I used to do some of the same rehabs together because I was working out on some of my problems and he was working out on his thing, so it's just been enlightening to understand and realize and seeing what happens when he have an attack.
Campbell's legacy continues to be celebrated and recognized. In 2019, he was named to the NFL 100th Anniversary All-Time Team, a prestigious honor that recognized him among the greatest players in the sport's first century. This recognition came more than 3 decades after his retirement, proving that his impact on the game transcended his era. The Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award, established in 2013, honors the best NCAA Division Y offensive defensive player with Texas ties, ensuring that his name and legacy remain connected to excellence in college football. This award, presented by Sportyler Inc., reflects Campbell's legacy, but also serves as a reminder of the values he represents: resilience, determination, and the ability to overcome adversity. Campbell's story resonates because it's fundamentally human. He reminds us that heroism isn't just about what we accomplish at our peak, but about how we respond when life knocks us down. His willingness to share his struggles publicly, the addiction, the business failures, the physical deterioration, makes his eventual recovery all the more powerful. In the end, Earl Campbell's greatest victory may not be any of his football achievements, addiction, business failure, or personal demons. As Earl Campbell continues his journey into the later chapters of his life, he carries with him the hard-won wisdom of someone who has seen both the heights of success and the depths of despair, and who has learned that sometimes the most important victories are the ones nobody cheers for. The daily choice to stay sober, the decision to keep fighting, and the courage to share your story so others might find their way out of the darkness. His story reminds us that while we may not control the challenges life throws at us, we can control how we respond to them. And in that response, we find the true measure of a champion. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.